You ready?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is all. You guys want some coffee?
Yeah, let's go some coffee.
So now we're filming.
Yeah, cheers.
Oh, almost managed to. I still don't have a PS4.
No,
I just like gave up.
I have my last thing I have is a Switch.
Yeah.
This sounds like a train as when people use it. We're right underneath.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool, that's fun. We used to play this in like every Finnish school.
Really?
Kindergarten has this stuff. Yeah.
I've literally never seen this game. In the last office had so many nice plants, even some trees inside, but we couldn't move them. It's a really nice space.
Where's the beer? I bet there's beer.
The beer is there is beer. I'm sure it is.
I mean, it's a bit early.
Beer's a beer's only thing. Speaking of man of the hour.
I did. Hey man, good to see you.
I'm Mathias, Gredal, the CEO of Cyber. We are mostly known for Subway Surfers, who just announced that we have been downloaded 4 billion times, making it the most downloaded game of all times. We're 180 people or so, 160 of those in Copenhagen, in these new fantastic offices. And we're still, we have things coming next month and next year's as well. So a lot of plans, a lot of things happening right now for Cyber.
I don't know where 4 billion units puts you on the kind of greater map of entertainment, but I would imagine that makes you one of the biggest entertainment properties ever.
We are a casual title, so we're definitely one of the most sort of the greatest reaches. But obviously, we're one of the things that people play in between other things. So it's been a while since we were the hype, but we can see that we're being picked up and played in between school sessions, meetings, when people fly or is in the metro. It's a break from what else they're doing. And we can see that obviously a lot of the 4 billion is also reinstalls, but people keep coming back to Subway Surfers as one of the solid titles, and I think we're proud to say that we must be one of the true mobile evergreens.
How did Cybo get started, and just like the story so far?
I usually joke that I have a bastard background. I studied business. I've always been sort of quite determined to succeed or to progress. And I was working for PwC as a strategy consultant, management consultant, and then I've worked for institutional investments firms or funds. So it's a bit of a bastard background for joining games. I happen to know Bodhi from childhood. We went to the same primary school. So
and Bodhi was one of the founders.
Yeah. So Sylvester and Bodhi, the Sai and Bo, met at an animation school in Viborg. They had a shared affection for street graffiti, hip hop, and then they also liked how to draw. And both actually thought that they might actually end up working for Pixar. Then mobile phones came out, or smartphones came out in 29. Was when iPhones really came to Denmark. And they felt this is our platform. We need to make something for this. So 2010 they started the company. A handful of funky prototypes, seeing what could you do with the gyroscope, what could you do with the finger touch and stuff. And then Temple Run came out in 2011. Basically proving the genre of runners. That's the first runner, at least for us. I know people in the industry, some people talk about cannonballs and other what I would call platformers. And Bodhi and Sylvester felt that they could do something that was more lively and more vivid and colorful. And then they made basically 3 genius inventions. One was the swipe mechanic for controls. In the first Temple Run, you were flicking the screen. The 3-lane mechanic of an ever skewing left horizon. It gives it a nice flow, so you didn't have the sharp turns where the whole screen would do. And then there was a reason to run. So you had the guard chasing you, which was not the case of the early tempo run. They added the monkeys after the guard came into Subway Surfers.
Okay.
Because there was a reason why the sort of instant action, instant explanation of the game. It takes 1 second. You're painting street art. Yeah. There's a guard catching you.
Yeah, I remember the beginning. It hooks you right away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those three things became also the blueprint for any future runner. So not only our 4 billion downloads, but if you combine the billions of downloads of runners, it follows the recipe that Sylvester and Bodhi did back then.
Okay, cool.
And I usually say that the best decision they made was to do something together that was making Subway Surfers. The second best decision was to hire someone like me. Not necessarily me, but just the fact that they saw the need to professionalize. And take in someone who had been working with strategy and leadership, helping them on their journey. But at the same time, also, I was green at the time. So also hiring someone who was learning himself. So I've been learning for the last 10 years with Cyber just as much as I've helped and held the founders through their process. That was the joke in the beginning, that I was the adult in the room, that I was brought in as the first non-developer to also just sometimes make sense of it all. Because Sylvester and Bodhi were true founders in the sense that they were just powering through all night and all day, making Subway Surfers what it is. But sometimes I would say, let's go into a room, close the door, and spend 4 hours discussing something that is not urgent. But talk about something further out.
Let's actually look ahead.
The fact that they invited me for that was a big privilege.
When Cyber was founded, I think the Danish games industry looked reasonably different than it does today. So can you talk a little bit about like how the local scene has developed and what's kind of unique and what's going on in Denmark?
So the Danish gaming scene has developed in the sense that we had early adaptations, early hits back in the 80s and 90s. There were developers, but obviously smaller scale and none that made it somewhere close to making it big. But the first sort of breakthrough hit that people remember was actually Hugo, which was the TV game that you would play on the phone. We actually once spoke to them and they felt that they were the inventors of runners because you had 3 lanes, even though it wasn't sim and you couldn't be hit. It was but there's a lot of love for Hugo in the Danish industry. And then you have, I think the first sort of international mega hit was obviously IO. So Hitman came out and set the scene. That was the industry, people trying to make something as big as IO back in those years. Then in the zeros, you start seeing people making flash games and HTML games, or very early sort of phone games. And it was you were still able to be discovered. So there was still some hopes that you could be that. In the last decade, mobile was the thing, and then as the window closed for discoverability, what we've seen is that it's Steam developers. All the indies are Steam. Because there's no chance that you can launch a mobile title and be discovered, but Steam actually still offers good opportunities for that. So we have a handful, 5 or 10 successful studios that does mobile, and then we have a handful, 5 or 10 that are successful and big scale developers, and then we have the whole growth layer of indies, mostly on Steam, that try to do different, very innovative gameplay. But finally now at GDC we were 22 companies as a delegation. We had the Minister of Culture visiting the conference. We had our tech ambassador for Denmark. So the establishment in Denmark is also sort of realizing or recognizing that now the industry is big enough. We have I think a revenue combined of 3 billion kroner, and that's spread across a lot of companies that pay salaries, that pay pensions, that has canteens, and that sort of are real companies where you, if you come to Denmark, you can have a career, and even if it doesn't work with the company you join, then you don't have to move back, which was the case 10 years ago.
In Sweden and Finland, the governments kind of figured out pretty early on that this is something worth supporting, and I think here it took a bit longer for that to happen.
I think the interesting part for me is how can we get the Danish ministries to see that the Finnish success continues, that there's so much more we can gain, that the global train sort of it's really a growth locomotive. And the Danish developers are somehow still standing a bit on the sideline. We can grow even more. There's even more opportunities for us out there.
What's next for the Danish industry?
Just more growth.
Okay.
So we know where Danes are not that mobile, and not in terms of device, but in terms of sort of moving their lives. The great talents in Denmark mostly stay. That's a good thing for the industry. And then thankfully we've been able to attract a lot of, out of the 180 we have, only a third are Danes.
Okay, well, that sounds
so
rare.
we recruit a lot from internationals, because we also need their experience. We need someone who has done it with big titles, that have done successful games, that know how to operate massive titles.
When you guys have board meetings or management team meetings, like what's the stuff that you take seriously?
We're a bit of an oddball in the sense that we have continued our growth. So because we were not fully optimized, and because we still had opportunities ahead of us, we've actually seen growth in the last years as well.
Okay.
So last year was probably our best year because of an insane bump for our 10th birthday. So we've seen that we can continue the growth, and we can continue improving, because we came from a point where the game was not fully optimized. So we're, in that sense, we're a bit odd. I think what's interesting is how the different legislations will play out. There's a big obviously next year when the app stores open up, even then it will be interesting to see which stores are actually relevant and which are sort of short-term fads that come in, burst, and then drop out again. Because we have a really good and long-standing relationship with Apple and Google, we foresee that continues. But if there is a third relevant platform, then of course that's also something we have to explore. And then I think in terms of loot boxes, in terms of interstitials, in terms of data and privacy, we welcome all the legislation that protects players and that makes the scene more regulated. Because I think that's needed. I think it's a good thing that we protect not only the players but also help parents protect their kids from things that they shouldn't see. It's great to see that the European way tries to let the individual own their data. If you think from a sort of the state could own it or the corporations could own it, then I think the Western version, where you have the right for privacy, is the right way to go.
One thing kind of tied to that that I wanted to ask about is TikTok, because I understood that kind of you guys got a bit of a second wind or third or fourth or fifth wind from TikTok last year.
Yes.
Is it a big focus for the company?
It's one of our marketing strategies. Usually when I talk about our marketing, I say that we have 5 or 10 different things we do every year. 4 of them are successful. We don't know which 4. And every year we've been able to keep viral. And we don't know if we could have turned off 3 of them. Because who knows which of the ones actually kept us viral and which one boosted it. Last year we saw a huge viral wave driven up by our 10th birthday. So the fact that we were able to, on all social media, to make it known that we had our 10-year anniversary. We meet the fans where they are. So if a new platform comes up that is super popular, we'll meet the fans there. If a platform closes down or something shifts, then we adapt. We're a relatively small player, and we just enjoy that our fans can meet us where they are.
So climate change being kind of maybe the defining struggle, challenge of our era. I would hope that games have some role to play. What's your thoughts? Like, what should the games industry be talking about or doing?
The games industry needs to carry its responsibility. It needs to be accountable. Of course, we're also an industry that has servers. It's also an industry that needs to travel some. I was just at GDC. I have to be there. So some of the conferences we cannot opt out of. but there's a lot of things that the games can do. So I'm not as it's not as interesting for me to discuss what a studio can do locally. We have an organic canteen. We try to nudge people to play plant-based. We have oat milk in the coffee machines as well. In the old office, we had solar panels on the rooftop, but the Ministry of Defense wouldn't allow us to do it here. But other than that, I think what's most interesting is how can we use our platforms for good. And I think companies can do a lot more. We funded or helped co-fund and co-found Playing for the Planet at the UN General Assembly in 2019. I've been personally trying to recruit more companies to join the cause and to start talking about it. Because just the conversation, and especially if it comes from the CEO or from the founders, matters a lot. Keep talking about the fact that we have an influence. And what we normalize in games matters for people playing it. It doesn't mean that if you see a shooting game, you'll go out and shoot people. Some of the things are also just fantasies or breaks from reality. It's escapism. But it matters if you see kindness in a game. It matters if you see green in a game. It matters if you see social justice in a game. And many of those things are small choices that if you are a game developer or a designer, my credo has been, when given a choice, choose right. Because often you have a situation where two things seem equally good. But one of them is a bit more green or a bit more social just, and you should always go with that one. When you have two good candidates, go for the one you have the least of. So intentionally increase diversity in organization. But that requires sort of gut, and it requires courage. Because it also comes with friction. And we want to invite that friction in because it's painful to be diverse. It's painful to be green. Unfortunately, it's not the convenient choice, but we insist that the world will be better for it.
I think you're the first one to really talk about this kind of values-based leadership, and what is interesting to me. I mean, like, of course, everybody does the same stuff. They're like, we recycle, we use green energy, blah blah blah. But these are kind of known solved problems. And some people would talk about the responsibility of bringing green themes and diversity and whatnot into the products. But I think you're the first one who talks about your responsibility as a leader in the games industry in going to the other leaders and saying that, hey, we have a job to do here. How are the reactions? Like, do you have people starting to shun you because you're this annoying hippie dude, or like?
I think I've always been the somewhat annoying idealist, at least. I think the world is ready for it. I think that we are seeing more and more companies that wake up to the challenge and sort of rise to the challenge from that. I see great initiatives coming from actually from Microsoft and Sony. Ubisoft is doing some great stuff. We're seeing Supercell and Rovio. It's a movement that has started, but still we need to see even bigger things, both going into the games and options in the game to either go to eco mode if you have a very high-risk game, and promote good messages. Because we don't want to be a preachy. We cannot turn on sort of, have you remembered to shut off the lights or the water when you brush your teeth, because then people will shut off the game. We have to stay fun. That's the main thing. But the more awareness or the more conversations we can start, the better. Because I think the updates we've done for Green Game Jams, where we've made the world greener, or where we've put recycled triangles or windmills and solar panels and stuff into the game, I don't foresee that drives a sort of immediate change in someone. But we hope that it starts a conversation, and we hope that it makes them more aware that this is something they should be curious about.
To me, it sounds like you are very much a company that is operated values first and isn't ashamed of stating what those values are. So do you think you benefit or maybe are damaged by this when it comes to, let's say, finding people to hire or talking to your audience or whatnot? Like, do you feel that there are like concrete business benefits to that?
Yes. I think we're able to hire better because we have an office that is green and we have an agenda that is fair. So I think from that point of view, we have a strong sense of purpose among employees. We have colleagues who really burn for this. And then I think it also resonates with our audience. There's a big connection with our posts about these items that actually have higher engagement on social media.
Okay.
We also know that we provoke. So some of the things that we feel is just fair and humanistic is considered progressive in certain parts of the world.
Yeah, we've interviewed 20 plus 25 people, probably mostly CEOs and founders and whatnot. And I kind of get the sense that for most people, like, they really feel the responsibility to act when it comes to the climate crisis or biodiversity crisis or all the various crises we are in the middle of. But I feel that a lot of companies are kind of stuck at this stage where, okay, you sorted out your recycling, you're maybe in like a modern, eco-friendly office building, you use renewable energy, you might even pay attention to your, like, you know, travel emissions and compensate and all that. But I think for most leaders in the industry, they don't really know where to go from there. So just what would you say to them? What are the next steps?
It's interesting because I'm currently co-authoring a book with Jude Over from Playmob. And she's been driving this agenda for years. She was part of starting Playing for the Planet. It was her dinner at GTC 19 that started it all.
Okay.
And I think what's interesting is that that's the conversation we're touching upon in this book. What can you do? Because some of it is also just about having the conversations in the organization.
Yeah.
About what could we do? We know we have a casual game. We know we have a whatever game. What could we add? What would just make for a nice addition to what we have currently? Or do we have currently prototypes or things where if we had the conversation about could it be greener? Could it carry a message? Could we have responsibility in this game? What would that mean? For some companies, it might mean changing the colors slightly. For others, it might be a new game mode. But for me, it's about starting more and more of those conversations from the top. Because I think that there will be companies or colleagues in all the companies that would be excited about it. Because it is an agenda that now has it has momentum outside of the industry. And I bet it does inside the industry as well. It just needs leadership support. One of the risks I see is that each company does an activity that they can put their name on, but it's really hard for other companies to see what did they actually do, with which partners, and what was the impact, and how are they planning on redoing it. So it becomes a flow of consistent action. And I think Playing for the Planet for me is the right place for that to happen, because then we know that if people just sign up to greenwash, then we should take them off the list again and say thank you. But this is not the place for any company to act as if they were green. It's for us to be inspired by each other's actions. We've chosen to donate and generate and invest into it. I was part of trying to fundraise more heavily for Playing for the Planet. And it seems that even for some of the companies that really contribute, it's hard when it comes to the revenue numbers. So instead of fighting that fight, I feel that we have more benefits from engaging with the development side and the sort of impact side. Because then again, back to what you do in your office doesn't matter, and what you do with one day revenue actually doesn't matter either. But if you can make 4 billion people aware of something, then I think we have something.